What's up, ladies and gents? I promised I'd do this, so here we go.
Discovered how to make fire.
We stopped at 309. I'm going to wind it back just a bit.
We have every great achievement has come from the independent work of some independent mind. Every horror and destruction came from attempts to force men into a herd of brainless, soulless robots without personal rights, without personal ambition, without will, hope, or dignity. It is an...
So just real quick, as we're easing into the speech, control is what ruins everything, right? Because authenticity is freedom, freedom to be authentic. When you have a control over someone's authenticity, that's not authentic. There's no authentication. You know, there's no real world value. There's no real value. Authenticity is freedom to do what one intuits. Freedom to look, freedom to see, freedom to perceive, as we went into last time, that our only weapon is perception. And really, it's the opposite, that all our weapons are the biases that get in between what is there and what we perceive. So really, it's a matter of how do I perceive clearly, or how do I clear all the things that don't allow me to perceive? And again, the main thing that doesn't allow for perception is control, is thought, because thought is control, thought control, right? Thought is, is the, how do you say, is the common denominator to groupthink. Because if there was no group thinking, how could you control, right? So in this sense, again, every man has a right to think for himself. And if you go into it, thinking for yourself really is not thinking at all. Or it's thinking clearly, which is not thinking at all, right? Because it's allowing the next thought to come in and not be resistant to any thoughts. Because the moment I resist the thought, I identify with the thought. And then I become the thought. And then I'm so rooted in this concept of Eugene that I can't see what is not Eugene. You see? And so it's these kinds of things. So again, thought likes to play little tricks, and the only way we can get it out of the way is when we stop trying to control our thoughts. That's a big thing. When we stop trying to control at all, because control is a thought. So no matter if you're trying to say, I'm going to control the bad thoughts, or I'm going to control the thoughts in such a way there's only good thoughts, that's still coming out of thought. That's still coming out of control.
An ancient conflict. It has another name: the individual against the collective.
Again, indivisible versus that which is compromised, that which is contaminated.
Our country, the noblest country in the history of men, was based on the principle of individualism.
The fact that we are all alone implies that we are all one. But immediately when we try to validate ourselves based off of another, we are not all one. We are divided. We are conflicted. We are fragmented. That's why Luke says to Darth Vader, I feel your conflict. Because this is the thing, being all one is really about nobody. It's not about somebody. And because it's not about somebody and somebody's selfish desire, one can think for oneself and live for oneself selflessly, because one is perceiving with responsibility.
The principle of man's inalienable rights. It was a country where a man was free.
Oh, and that's another thing. The collective has no responsibility, because it's always the collective's fault, right? It's always man's fault. It's always outside of my control. It's always outside of my responsibility. But again, the individual, it's no one else's fault, right? All the fault that can be taken is my own. And because of that, there's immense sense of freedom, because I don't have to be dependent on other people's faults. I can just remain with my own.
Free to seek his own happiness, to gain and produce, not to give up and renounce, to prosper, not to starve, to achieve, not to plunder, to hold as his highest possession a sense of his personal value, and as his highest virtue, his self-respect. Look at the results. That is what the collectivists are now asking you to destroy, as much of the earth has been destroyed. I am an architect. I know what is to come by the principle on which it is built. We are approaching a world in which I cannot permit myself to live. My ideas are my property. They were taken from me by force, by breach of contract. No appeal was left to me. It was believed that my work belonged to others to do with as they pleased. They had a claim upon me without my consent, that it was my duty to serve them without choice or reward. Now you know why I dynamited Cortland. I designed Cortland. I made it possible.
And guys, this is happening to everyone. This is happening to Mike Tyson. This is happening to Kanye West. This is happening to so many people that are entering into contracts and basically with words, with language, with coercion, with force, right? With slyness, with cleverness, people are trying to have a stamp of approval or, you know, some kind of a licensing, right? And only Caesar licenses, right? People want, was it the state is trying to, or other people are trying to license your work. And once other people have a say in your work, regardless of your say, that's not right. There's nothing right about that. That is entirely wrong, misrepresenting, and untrue, dishonest, right? Without integrity, and again, just straight up wrong. So, you know, the moment we stop mischaracterizing other people, we can stop mischaracterizing ourselves. Because as long as we're finding fault with others, we don't find fault with ourselves. That's why the greatest way to battle is actually to find the fault of yourself first. Then you'll be able to in knowing your weakness, fight strong with that weakness. And at the same time, when you know your own weakness, you know your enemy's weakness, right? So in this sense, again, it's every man's responsibility to look and be responsible and find fault with himself. And in this finding fault with yourself, this is growth, or this is, you know, a timeless progression, right? How do you say? An opening of a flower, an opening of a lotus, right? Is to see those shadow aspects of me, those unintegrated aspects of me, those aspects of me, whether it's the spiritual society that's influencing me, whether it's my ideas that I've, you know, read in scripts or whatever it is that's influencing me. It's whatever that is really not me, whatever I am imitating, right? And I haven't found for myself. I haven't gone into it. I haven't done, you know, I haven't done my due diligence to look into the matter, and I just have these opinions. That is the beginning of conflict. That's the beginning of division. That's the beginning of slavery, of this collectivism, of all this, how do you say it, dependent thinking. And so I submit to you that it's possible that independent thinking is the only way that one can be free from thinking at all. Because one can examine one's own thought and find the fault with one's own thought. But if I'm only examining in terms of the collective, you know, I can't remain and see and blossom my own thought. And again, face my own darkness, face my own fear, face my own suffering, face my own logical inconsistency and contradiction. And what this collective allows you to do is always escape on some scapegoat of propaganda, of some enemy of fear, of some common enemy. And the point is, the common enemy is in ourselves.
I destroyed it. I agreed to design it for the purpose of seeing it built as I wished.
Exactly. So right now he's in trouble because he blew up what they contaminated. Right? He blew up what they compromised. And his argument is, I never meant to make a creation that would harm my people, my friends, my family more. So if other people are going to take my words for granted, if other people are going to misrepresent me and mischaracterize me, then I'm going to blow everything up. And this is how I see relationships too. If one girl tries to tear down my life, I blow up the relationship. There is no more ship left. If the crew on the ship don't respect the captain, there is no ship. There is no order, right? So I blow everything up and we start over, because I'd rather start over than have my creations gone awry. and things being said that I never said, right?
That was the price I set for my work. I was not paid. My building was disfigured at the whim of others who took all the benefits of my work and gave me nothing in return. I came here to say that I do not recognize anyone's right to 1 minute of my life, nor to any part of my energy, nor to any achievement of mine. No matter.
Amen. And even some of those people that are close to me think that I am entitled to give other people my time. This is the thing. Even if I have given people time in the past, if right now I'm not in a position to give my time to them, or they're not acting in a manner that deserves my time, I don't have any reason to give them my time. This is what people think is disrespectful, is ego, is anger, is all of these things. No, it's just self-respect, right? And if you can't trust me, right, in giving you my time adequately, then there is no respect. So this has to be clear that this is not toxic masculinity. When I limit my time, it's for a good reason, right? When I see something through and I'm finished with it, and I see that there's circular things going on, and you know, there's a lot of time wasting going on, a lot of emotions, and emotions are fine, but again, if they're not reasoned out, and at the end of the day, it's jeopardizing the trajectory of the ship, I don't need to give any time, because it's not helping me, nor is it helping another. See, when I'm helping another on their terms, it's not helping me. When I help another on my terms, it's helping other and me, because again, when I love another, after loving myself, there will be no conflict. But if I try to love another when I don't even love myself, now that is the beginning of all war, of all conflict, of all pretense, of all treating someone fake. It all comes from that. It comes from not loving oneself first in order to love another. So again, this is where so many greats always talk about the fact that we're afraid to face ourselves. The reason why we don't change radically, we don't change fundamentally, we don't change at the root, is because we're scared of our own tree. We're scared of looking at the own things that we produce, our own fruits, our own labors. We're scared that everything in our lives could have been wrong. And this is why doubt has been demonized, but doubt is the only reasonable thing in sanity. Because the trait of an insane person is he never questions if he is insane. So the ability to question at every action, if I am insane, that is sanity. So sanity is a level of skepticism, not total skepticism, not schizophrenia, but is a level of again, question, a level of, how do you say, not so willing to be convinced. I need to be shown real facts, real knowledge. And if I'm not, I won't move forward. But again, I'm not going to be unreasonable. If I'm shown what is actually rational, what actually makes sense, where no contracts have been breached, right? And where no prior notices have gone unchecked, right? Then of course I will go with whatever is being asked of me or whatever it is, right? But until then, until it's reasonable, even in my point of view, I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to be contaminated, because I can't, because I have no choice. Choice would imply I am compromised. Doing what is natural means no choice.
No matter who makes the claim, it had to be said. The world is perishing from an orgy of self-sacrificing. I came here to be heard in the name of every man of independence still left in the world. I wanted to state my terms. I do not care to work or live on any others. My terms are a man's right to exist for his own sake.
Subscribe to
Just SS Simply Speech Star Show, right? SS baby. But yeah, every man has a right to live and work for himself. And that's just 10%. That's the tithing that God is talking about, really. Right? So thought, again, has a place. Knowledge has a place. Memory has a place. Anything mechanical has a place. But once thought, which is control, tries to control that which is not thought, once thought tries to control what is observed and what is perceived, that is blindness. That is ignorance. That is unwillingness to see. So willfully blind. That's worse than being just blind and not ever having an opportunity to see. So in this sense, again, if thought gets in the way, it's your fault. It's not the collective's fault. And that's what everyone has to be confronted with, that my lack of clarity and my perception is my own problem. It's not your problem. So you don't have to try to fix my clarity or my perception. Fix your own, and after fixing your own, we will be able to communicate. Assuming that I've also fixed mine, right? So in this sense, and then if you go a little further, who's really doing the fixing? Right? If someone is fixing, that's thought. Only thought tries to fix. So again, the intuitive, natural, organic response, that's the true sense of it. The individual and being alone and being all one, being undivided, being whole, being full, being in full capacity. But in being full capacity, in sensing my my sensory materialistic, what do you call it? Senses completely. In living and dying every second, right? In living completely now and living completely whole, it's selfless. So when we align with ourself completely, when we integrate completely, and again, this can't be done once in the past. You have to keep doing it now. You have to keep facing fear now. You have to keep observing now. But in doing that completely, there is no conflict. And in that not being conflict, in being alone, you are all one. You are united. You are together. Because you being your authentic self does not mean you hate the world. In fact, if you hated the world, you would not be yourself.